In the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit, please be seated. At first, they didn't recognize Jesus. They didn't know who it was that was standing on the shore. Was it that they didn't know what he looked like? Well, of course they knew what he looked like. Somehow, he was different. His appearance was different. We learned this from the disciples who were on the road to Emmaus. A man walked beside him for all 3 miles of that. And they didn't know it was him until he blessed the bread. Then they knew it was Jesus. Mary, when she saw the Lord, thought it was an angel or the gardener. He spoke to her, Mary, and then she saw that it was Jesus. It's the idea that we don't know Jesus if he comes down and sits next to us. If he walks beside us along the road, if he sits next to us on the bus, if he sits down next to us when we're having lunch, you're not going to recognize him until something happens, and then it's the Lord. I once had an encounter in Montreal where I used to go to this little place. It was a fountain. And on that fountain there was a bench. The bench was all the way around. And one day I sat down and I looked over next to me on the bench, and there was this fellow sitting there, and he looked just like Jesus. He was wearing an orange Speedo, and he had his feet up over the edge of the bench, and he was reading his book with the sun on his back. I said, that sure is a kook trying to look like Jesus. After a while he turned around. I noticed on his wrist there was a scar right there when he was turning this way. And I noticed he had his arms up like this so that his right side was to me. His legs were over the back of the bench. And I noticed he had a scar right here, about that wide. I thought, well, sometimes you'll have that if you have a collapsed lung. They'll do that puncture, but it's always round. It's a round. This was flat. I thought, wow. So just sat there. I just observed that and kept my mouth shut. And then he turned around, and I saw that he stretched his legs out like this, one over the other. And I noticed, just happened to be looking, and there were scars in his feet and his ankles right there. One over the other, as if they were lined up. I thought, well, this is really someone really going to great lengths. He's got an obsession. Look just like Jesus. There was a couple walking by with a baby carriage. Everybody else was out, playing guitars and just enjoying the sun, having picnics, and birds were singing and so forth. A beautiful day like this. People walked by with a baby carriage and talking. He made eye contact with that baby. The little baby was maybe 9, couldn't have been walking yet, maybe 10 months old. Was sitting up. He followed the eyes of that baby and that man, locked. And I saw a connection made. It was imperceptible to everybody else, but I saw it. It was revealed to me. I saw what happened. A connection was made, soul to soul, heart to heart. Something that was known between them. After a while, I'm just sitting there. He gets up, puts his book away, walks a few paces away, stretches out like that, and thousands of scars up and down his back and his legs were suddenly visible. Could it be? No. And I watched him just walk away, and a few paces further down, he was gone. Where'd he go? He was gone. I got up and I ran, and I looked everywhere. Hey, do you see that fellow? He looked just like Jesus. Do you see that man? He looked just like Jesus. No, what are you talking about? The next day I came back. I was up all night, wondering if that were him, if I see him again. I've got a lot of questions to ask. My heart was on fire with questions to ask Jesus. I mean, if you could talk for 5 minutes with Jesus, what would you ask him? What would you ask? Wow. Think about it. The next day I came back to that park and all the seats were taken, except for one, the other end, and I went up and sat down there. The sun was full in my face. It was hot sun, just like standing out there, and the sun was hot in my face. Suddenly I felt a shadow come before me, across over my face. I looked up and it was him. And he looked at me. He just went, and he went and sat down at the same bench he was at the day before. And I just sat there. I couldn't bring myself to go up and say, "Are you Jesus?" I couldn't bring myself to do that. Because either he is or he isn't. And if it's just some kook trying to look like Jesus, well, then what's he going to say? If it is him, what's he going to say? Something you would know in your heart. If it was him, your heart would be on fire. Your soul would be on fire. Something would happen. You would be changed. You would feel a change. You would feel a refresh, something different. And I saw him, and I just watched him. He pulled out his book and he was sitting there reading that same book. It was a French philosophy. In French. Descartes. And I just sat there and watched him. I said to myself, I could use a friend like you. So free, so comfortable in his own skin. Not afraid to be out in the middle of public in an orange Speedo, sunning himself at a fountain in a little French park, reading a philosophy book in front of all those people. He didn't care. Nothing wrong, he was just there in that setting. No one approached him, no one said anything. He didn't interact with a single person. But I said, under my breath, I said I could use a friend like you. Because I am a different kind of person. My life has always been disciplined. Navy, submarines, nuclear power plants, hazardous waste, very structured, set, regulated type of work. Squares, rectangles kind of thing. I need a procedure, I need an ordinance, I need some rules to follow. But he didn't. So I said to myself, I could use a friend like you. And I watched him get up and he put his stuff away and he walked away down the other way down on a little street there. And just as he got there, it was like hundreds of people came out from everywhere. Where'd those people come from? And he was just lost in the crowd. Never saw anything like it. Never seen anything since. He's gone. I got up and I went over and I sat down at that bench. I'd sat at that bench many, many times. One of my favorite places to go for a picnic. Some baguette, some wine, nice little place to go. But there I looked at that bench where he was, and there carved into it and painted over, it said, Te amo, Rabbi. The cross. If you know, you know. Months went by. I would go to that park all the time. One time, I went and there was these goth kids. Goth was very much in vogue at that time in Montreal. All these people with their black boots and their spiked hairs and their leather with the chains and a rat on their shoulder. It was very much in vogue at that time. This was 25 years ago. It's not like that now. But it was like that then. I remember one kid came up and he was bragging to his friends that he just got these new paratrooper boots. And they were perfect. They were the ones with the zippers on the side. He was bragging that he was like, and they would say, oh, that's cool. Cool, cool. And they're speaking French when they're saying cool in English. That made them cooler. And I caught the guy's eye and I said, look at my boots. They were exactly the same ones and I'd had them for 20 years. It defeated his whole, ruined his whole day as a monk. So I said, Jesus, where are you, right? I said, where are you? And there was a plane going by, and on the top of the plane had a banner behind it. And just at that moment, I said, Jesus, where are you? He says, Jesus is here. He loves you. Flying over my head. I thought, wow, that's a synchronicity, right? That's just a coincidence. Those apostles somehow, bored with staying in Jerusalem, decided they were just going to go fishing. And when they went fishing, they didn't catch anything. And out there that morning, they look on the shore, and there's someone says, did you catch anything? No. We'll throw your net over to the other side. And they brought this big haul. And they realized, deja vu, we've been through this before. Jesus was ready to do it all again. Come. I told you to come and follow me. I'll make you fishers of men. Have you caught anything yet? No. Does he have to do it all over again? It's as if there was a time variance. Something happened where they saw Jesus in a different time and space and density factor that they couldn't recognize him for who he was. But they were somehow changed, the perception changed, and then they did see him, and they knew that it was him. A form-changing Jesus, a time-bending Jesus, a reality-bending Jesus, a perception-changing Jesus, who can, by the very utterance of his name and faith in it, can heal somebody who's been sick and lame all their lives. The message is that nothing you see is real. Months went by. I kept going back to that park looking for Jesus. Is it Jesus? Please come. If it's you, please come. I know it's you. I hope it's you. I don't know, but I hope it's... Where's my faith? It either is or it isn't. Finally, I saw him. There was snow on the ground, but the sun was out. And there he was, sunning himself on the bench. I had a coat on. There were some girls sitting on another bench. I went up to them and said, "Look, there's Jesus." They looked at me like I was crazy. No one would believe it. No one could see what I saw. No one saw what I saw. No one had gone through the process of revelation like I had been through the process of revelation. No one was interested enough to even inquire. No one had Jesus on their mind enough to even have, trigger it. It was a revelation and a teaching for me. A visitation that I know to this day was in fact what it was. Not for the sake that I'm anything, because it's available for everybody. Seek, you'll find. Look, you'll see. Knock, you can discover. It's a path of discovery, is what these apostles were on. In their boat, coming to the shore, bringing in 153 fish, one for every country of the known world at that time. Now it's sort of changed in that the Satanists now have 188 for their purposes. They've divided them up into 188 instead of 153. They've co-opted the world. Captured it. They've captured just about everybody in it. So much so that it's so corrupt that we can sit outside this morning and watch a drug deal take place right in front of the church, right before worship. Right? Right there. Drug deal going on right in front of the church with me standing there watching. No shame in their game. Total corruption. And so, do they see what we see? Are they clued in, synced in to the reality that is Jesus, or are they stuck in their own reality? Jesus gives us a path of discovery, to discover Him, if you're willing to look, if you're willing to go on the path of discovery. It's a process, not a sudden vision, although those happen also. Suddenly, He's in the room. Suddenly, He's there. Suddenly, you can be filled with sadness and gloom. Suddenly, He's there. And everything's different now. These weeks go by, and it seems as if I come into my mind where I'm a failure. I failed at every single thing I've attempted to do. If I'm here for 20 years, you would think that this place would be filled with people trying to get in. The number of people that have come through here, the number is in the thousands. But yet, I feel like I must have failed in some way, because it's not Jesus that's the failure. I must be failing to communicate the love which is possible the love which is offered, the change, the refreshing, the transformation which happens here. And then Sunday morning comes along, and it seems like I'm at my lowest, because will someone come? Will someone actually get it? Will someone perceive the imperceptible? Will someone see the many colors, the many features of this Jesus and his magnificent revelation here? And then it happens. And then it happens. And then he's suddenly here. And he's suddenly transforming me and everything that I touch, and everything that I'm with, and every person that I see. Is seen in a whole new resonance, and a whole new reality. And I hope you can see yourself the way I see you, because if you could see yourself for the way I see you for 2 seconds, you would be forever changed. And never be the same again. Because the Christ within you is yearning to get out. Will you please give permission for Christ to take over your life? No holds barred. Will you please let him transform you? Will you please allow Jesus to take hold of all the circumstantial situations and conditions of every relationship, of every memory, of every deed you've ever done, every cause and every effect you've ever been involved with, to transform all those causes, all those steps, all those wrongdoings into an ultimate good, a transforming spike of peace, of goodness, of resurrection energy, of heaven in you, without doubt, without suspicion, without agenda. Will you please allow him to bring you into the truth of you as you and even so, I find that it's even more path of discovery, even more revelation, even more little fine-tuning, a little painting, a little weaving, a little circumstance, a little vibration, a little color. It's amazing the subtlety which the master artist, the master weaver, the master potter can do with all of us. Intertwining, interweaving with each and every soul, each and every created being, a fabric, a tapestry that is magnificent in the universe. Nothing ever like it. Faith-filled believers. Stones rejected, but made into the most beautiful. This is Jesus. Caught anything yet? Speaking to you. Come, follow me. I'll make you fishers of men. Caught anything yet?